Greetings, this is Naya Tai with NNV News. Today I have the honor of interviewing a brother who goes by the name of Telv1 on Instagram. This brother is an author and he teaches a lot about mental health and self-care on his Instagram. So as soon as he goes ahead and joins, we're going to start our interview. But in the meantime, you all can follow us on here at NNV News. You all can actually follow my personal Instagram account, which is XXNYAHHAYNXX. And then you can also check us out on Facebook at National Network View. I hope that you all are doing well. And you can also just go ahead and check out our website, nnvnews.com. There he goes. Welcome on in. And then we could go ahead and request you to go live with me. All right. Hello, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So my name is Naya. I'll be doing the interview today. What's your name?
Telvin.
Okay. I had a feeling it was Telvi, but I wasn't quite sure because it didn't say it
It's
on
just,
your Instagram.
it's just that you just add an N to the Telvin. There it is.
Okay. Yes, sir. Now, do you mind introducing yourself for us real fast? Who are you? What do you do?
Okay. My name is Telvin Peterson. I am an addictions counselor at a prison state facility. Working there for about going on 3 years. I've always been doing some sort of guiding and therapist type work, and I'm doing that for a long time. But actual clinically, maybe about 3 4 years.
Hmm. And what type of counselor did you say you work in?
Addictions.
Addictions.
Mhm.
Wow, yes, sir. Wow, the work that you do, that's beautiful. That's really
Thank you.
beautiful. hmm So I had the opportunity to go ahead and take a look at your Instagram and your post. Do you have any other social medias besides Instagram?
Um, I have a Facebook. I don't post on there that often. Can't remember my name on there. I think my name on there is Williams TZA. Changed my name on there because, of course, the clients and other people in the prison can find you and they'll try to add you. So try to keep that separate. And also have a Tumblr I can be found at the same handle as my Instagram.
Okay. So what are your intents with your posts on Instagram?
My intent is to bring awareness, to let other people know that they're not alone. And whatever the issues is they may face, there's a specific post about escapism. And what escapism is, it's a way to, and I'm trying not to use the word escape again, but try to go someplace else basically, or to distract themselves from whatever the challenges is that they face. And it's something that we all do, and some people do it without even knowing. And that post was just made to bring awareness and to share. So that's the purpose of the Instagram, is to bring awareness and to let everyone know they're not in this alone.
Yes, sir. And I believe that's very important to bring awareness to, of course. And a lot of people, they sometimes do think that they are alone, and so they don't tell anybody what they're going through, and so they're suffering in silence. when they don't have to.
Right.
They don't have to at all. So, what made you decide to do what you're doing, become a counselor? That's beautiful.
It was an interesting journey, I'll say. Initially, I think like a lot of young black males, they want to play sports and, you know, go that route. And I went that route initially, got injured, and didn't really know what to do with myself after realizing that after so many injuries, I had to figure out something to kind of fall back on. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out, figure out what I wanted to do, but I knew that people were very intriguing to me. Um, so quickly went from, well, initially I was majoring in computer science, and then I realized that was boring. I need interaction with others. So the way the brain works and the way people interact was very intriguing to me. And I figured, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't really have many positive male role models in my life, and I've seen a lot of positive male role models through sports. So that was kind of the only way, and I didn't want that to be the only avenue for a lot of people. Because some people don't play sports, some people don't have the opportunity. So I wanted to be that person for them. So I thought the best way to do that was to educate myself.
Yes, sir. Now, can you give us just one or two things, or as many as you like, things that you've learned through your past years and things that you've really taken away and found to be very important to yourself through what you've experienced?
The biggest takeaway from the past few years, from everything really, is self care and self love. That looks different for a lot of people. Some people require, more work than others. Some people have a higher level of tolerance of stress than others. So what self love looks like to you may be different for me.
That's true.
Self love sometimes can look like, just going for a walk. For other people, it could look like playing video games. And in a way, these are forms of, escapism. But sometimes it allows us to regroup. It allows us to take care of ourselves, and allows us to recharge and be present when we are at the energetic level to do so. Um, and it's easy to experience compassion fatigue. It's easy to experience burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And working in the field that I work in, I'm susceptible to all types of energies, all types of people and personalities and tension. And then what's unique about working in the prison system is that there's so many different things at play. Whereas, persons, individuals, cultures, the prison culture itself, sexuality, and all these other things that come into play that many people don't really think about. And it's all in one place, and you're interacting with so many people at so many different times on so many different levels. So for me, self care is definitely important, as a counselor. And just imagine, people who go day by day and all they really doing is keep moving and moving and moving, never take that time for themselves, and they will experience that occasional burnout and compassion fatigue. So definitely, self care is definitely one of those big things that I encourage everyone to do and everyone to practice, even if it's just sitting in silence or listening to music. Definitely doing something that you enjoy and doing something that helps you relax.
Mm-hmm. So for those of us like yourself, I'm sure you have a very busy schedule. I know personally myself, I have a very busy schedule. I don't always get the opportunity to sit down and breathe and try to relax. But what would you recommend for those people who are just like always working, always on their feet? How can they make sure that they get their self-care time in?
One thing that I do and I've adopted, um, I'm doing it for probably about a couple months now. Um, is listening to a podcast that I enjoy. In my taste in podcasts, it can be listening to a true crime episode. It can be listening to um, a podcast on economics and business, a podcast on some type of fictional character, a fictional story, but something entertaining or something knowledgeable that I can use, and that could be before on my way to work and leaving work, or even my commute to the grocery store, or going out
Mm-hmm.
of town. Turn on those podcasts, and that kind of helped me relax or wind down. So definitely, podcasts. Listen to podcasts. Some people may enjoy listening to music, reading. Um, but if you're a busy person, those podcasts and audiobooks are definitely some great tools to use as you're commuting because you're driving anyway. So why not
Mm-hmm.
listening to that
Right.
podcast
Why
or
not?
audiobook? Um, Before bed, definitely meditation. If you don't know how to meditate, even doing guided meditation to help you fall asleep, um, binaural beats, or just right before you go to bed, you write down what you accomplished in the day, and that'll help you um, recognize the things that you accomplished throughout the day, and not only that, but give you something to feel good about, and that'll kind of help springboard you into something more later on.
Right, right. I agree. Meditation for sure definitely helps me. So I want to hear your thoughts about self-love. Um, I know I'm one of those people, you gotta love yourself, you gotta love God, and then you gotta love others. But some people, they feel as though they can just automatically give all of their love to somebody else before loving themselves. And so they find themselves not being able to properly take care of themselves because they're giving it all to someone else. What are your thoughts on that?
You can't help anyone without first helping yourself. Um, and I like using this analogy as a cup. If you keep pouring into someone else's cup, then your cup will be empty. You have to allow yourself time to fill your cup or allow others to fill your cup. But the moment you give, and give, they should be able to give right back. So it should be reciprocal. So as long as you keep pouring and keep giving, there will come a point where there's nothing left to give. So we have to continuously pour into ourselves and allow it to be poured into.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, for someone who would find themselves in a situation like that, what piece of advice would you give them?
For someone who is constantly giving,
Mm-hmm.
to actually take some time to just give to yourself. Um, give to yourself first. In the economic world or the business world, there's a saying that says, pay yourself first before you pay your bills. Well, that applies to us too, as far as giving and just our interactions with other people. We have to give to ourselves first to be able to give to others. And what that may look like for someone who constantly gives is just to say no, um, setting boundaries. Sometimes we may experience guilt, so we continue to do things with people because we feel like we have to, or out of virtue. But we have to be just as virtuous to ourselves as we are to other people. So definitely saying no, setting boundaries, or just I don't really encourage people to isolate themselves, but sometimes that's what it takes for certain people. Isolate yourself to regroup, spend some time alone, and recognize what things or recognize what you have control over and what you don't, and realize that the things you do have control over is that self love, is that giving to yourself, because you will get worn out, you will get drained. and it just creep up on you, and you don't know what happened. So even if you have to
Hmm.
do setting intent, I say this: setting intentions every day to do something for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know.
I I think it's so important to talk about mental health in the Black and Brown communities because it's something that's just not even given a second thought about. If you talk to when you're younger and you talk to an adult and be like, hey, like, I'm not feeling too good, they just brush it off. And then
Yeah.
so we kind of go out throughout our lives just like, oh, well, I mean, hey, it is what it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. And
Right.
that's why I really appreciate what you're doing. Now, when people have, or when people are not properly taking care of themselves, does that lead to mental illnesses?
Yes, most definitely. Um, One of the things that I've experienced is what's called adrenal fatigue, um, and that could lead to a host of other things from I can't pronounce the word fibromyalgia to hair loss. It could, if you don't get enough sleep, sleep deprivation to hallucinations, all these different things that could happen as a result of this. A lot of people experience depression and anxiety, but don't really know that's what's happening. And, and like for men, for example, men face depression and they don't really know what's going on. They don't really seek help for it, and men are less likely to seek help for things that aren't physical. So until the depression has physical symptoms, he won't get help. He wants to treat the physical symptoms rather than feeding or fixing the emotional symptoms. So it could be um, irritability. It could be exhaustion. Always feeling susceptible to um, basically irritability is the biggest thing, and what it looks like in men is aggressive. And the man could be sad about something, but it manifests itself as aggression. And until we understand that what we are experiencing is depression, then we can treat that. But that depression could lead to other things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it could possibly lead to things like bipolar. It can lead to antisocial personality disorders, borderline personality disorders, and all these other things that come with um, anxiety and depression if left untreated.
Absolutely. I I've been able to witness that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
But question now, what if somebody does not recognize these symptoms? What if they're just like going day to day and they feel like something's wrong, but they're just like, I don't know what's wrong. So they just keep moving. How can we help them recognize that, they just have to take care of themselves a little more?
Mm-hmm. I think um, it takes a person to actually sit down with them and talk to them. A lot of times people aren't open, but if you care about a person, you just have to sit down and have a conversation with them. A lot of times we are blind to, you know, what we do. We may do things unconsciously and have no awareness of what we're doing. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you may see someone angry, and what they're doing is they're projecting something onto other people, or they could be projecting onto you. But we kind of have to recognize it. Once we recognize it, we have kind of like we have a decision to make. Because a lot of times, if someone was to project onto you and it's negatively, we may respond negatively as a response to them. And in counseling, there's this thing called transference, where the client projects onto you their thoughts and feelings that not necessarily had anything to do with you. So you can be treating a client and they remind you, I'm sorry, you remind them of, let's say, a mother or a grandparent, and be, whatever feelings they feel for that person, they're going to project that onto you. So they had a loving relationship with their grandparents or their parent, whoever it is, then they will project that onto you in subtle ways. But you'll see it. you'll be able to recognize it if it was a negative correlation between the two. So let's say if you said something that they didn't like, they didn't necessarily agree with, then they would project that anger and frustration onto you because their parent or their grandparent did this to them or responded in a certain way. So you'll kind of see that, but it takes a while to. I don't want to say it takes a while, but it takes some time to kind of understand that or understand what's happening. And once you are able to recognize it, you're able to say, okay, whatever this is going on, that lets me know it had nothing to do with me. What's going on? Are you okay? You want to talk about it? Whatever you feel like is necessary, then you kind of just take that time to, just inquire about what it is. So sometimes, especially in men, there's a lot of projection, a lot of aggression associated with that projection. So definitely having that conversation. Um, if you ask somebody, is anything wrong? 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say no. But you kind of gotta, if you have enough rapport with them, you kind of have to, you will be that person to be able to decipher from whether they're just saying that or they are really okay. Maybe just having a bad day, but a lot of times there's some underlying issue there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And I'm sure as a counselor, you've had so many different people projecting different emotions on you.
Hmm.
So does that take like a personal toll on you? I
Yes,
know
it
self-care and
does.
self-love
Yeah,
for you has to be very important in your life because you just gotta flush all that out at like the end of the day. How does that work
yeah.
for you?
Um, I'm being honest, I'm still working on it. It's just something that you know you just have to learn to do. There are certain moments that are more difficult than others, and some things that just doesn't. That after a while doesn't bother you. I've experienced a death of a client, and I hadn't had much rapport with him, but I had enough, and just to experience that, it was like, wow, I never thought I would, feel this way. Um, and it affected me for a while, but I was able to come through. Then there's certain things. It could be a client could have pulled me into something that I didn't even know I was pulled into, and that can wear a person down. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, it's unfortunate to say, but especially working in the prison system, you get a lot of people who are manipulative,
Mm-hmm.
and they need help, but they kind of take that help and use it to manipulate whatever situation they can, and that itself can be draining. So I've experienced throughout my years a lot of different things that require me to self to practice self-care, and that's something you should do you know already. But I'm just saying that I'm still working on it. I still have some work to do because it's definitely a
Mm-hmm.
it's very draining, put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very draining.
I'm sure. I'm sure you have something on your lip. It wasn't always there, or else I would have told you. There you go. But
Thank you.
so what advice as a counselor? Sometimes I know people don't feel comfortable stepping up and going to people, maybe such as yourself, as a counselor or a therapist, or they don't want to talk to anybody else about their problems. Maybe just kind of keep it to that one person or that person in their circle. So, what advice would you give to a person that they feel comfortable going to about maybe talking to a counselor, talking to someone else beyond them? Because as people, I don't know, such as myself, I'm not able to counsel like you're able to counsel.
Hmm.
So, what advice could you give us to give them to maybe have a conversation with someone who can actually help them in a different way that we can?
um and I've experienced this myself. And when I was mentioning earlier, I've always been in this realm of counseling and guiding. I've been doing this you know throughout my entire life, but I can't say I've been doing it clinically. I didn't always have the clinical training and clinical knowledge, but
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't be everyone's counselor, and you have to make sure that they understand that. And a lot of time, as we are interacting with family and friends, we have to understand that we have to keep that separate. We have to, have boundaries with them because what they're doing is they're projecting on us, and then it can make us feel a certain type of way. So we can feel the effects that they're feeling. Um, some people will call it transpersonal, where our the way we interact with people has an effect on us. But in what I would suggest for someone who's in that situation where they are not really in tune with how to be supportive or don't really know what to say, sometimes it's not so much what you say or say anything at all. It's just being encouraging and be that listening ear, but also to encourage them to seek um, medical treatment, seek psychiatric treatment, whatever it is that they may need. But be an advocate for them, because we may not know what to say, but we can go online and look up things for them and say, hey, try reading this article or watch this YouTube video, because a lot of people aren't designed to be a counselor. They aren't designed to guide. But there are some things that we're good at that we can use our own abilities, our own tools to assist them. So definitely advocating for them and helping them out any way you can. But if you don't know what to say,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. You don't have to really say anything but okay. Sorry you feel that way, or okay, what can I do to help you? Different gestures like that. But definitely be the advocate for them.
Right. Now, what are some do nots that you should just absolutely not do when handling a person who's maybe going through it, having a hard time?
If they're having a hard time, don't change the subject. Don't make it about you. Don't compare yourself to them. Don't say something like, I had it worse. Um, those
Don't
are the
invalidate
most.
them.
Say that again.
Don't invalidate them.
Right, right, right. That's that. 'Cause you could be what is keeping them alive sometimes. And when we invalidate them, they really don't have anything else to hold on to say, okay, this is the reason why I'm not doing this or I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, definitely don't invalidate them. Um, don't be dismissive. A lot of times we can be dismissive and I know it, but definitely listen. Give them your attention, even if you just sit in silence and shake your head. But definitely be attentive. When they're talking to you, don't answer phone calls. Don't be on your phone scrolling. Just be very attentive to them. Be very attentive to not only what they're saying to you, but listening to certain things. Listen to what exactly they're saying, because some people don't know how to necessarily articulate their thoughts. But if you listen close enough, you may figure out what's going on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in treatment, a lot of people are discreet. They don't like to disclose certain things, but you can kind of figure it out if you listen close enough. But but the most important thing is to not invalidate them and be
Absolutely.
very attentive.
Yes, sir. So I'm just gonna continue to ask general questions in case any of our viewers, um, because we do have a couple of viewers on now, but then also
Mm-hmm.
this video will be displayed on our Instagram, so people will come
Okay.
back and watch them. So if I'm just gonna ask general questions, and if it applies to somebody, then it applies to somebody, and I pray that they'll be able to take something away from it.
Okay.
So have you, probably so, but have you had any situations where you've dealt with suicidal people and they before you were a certified counselor,
Mm-hmm.
you've dealt with suicidal people. How would you advise someone to handle that situation? Like, you're the only person that they feel comfortable talking to, and they let you know how they feel.
I'm going to be honest about this one. I don't like to. I'm not gonna. I have to be careful when I say this. That's a topic that not topic, but it's a situation where I'm just like very sensitive about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really when it comes to something like that, all my training and all my experience kind of goes out the window because it's like it's a trigger for me. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, the same things of which I've described earlier about just being attentive to them. Um, but there are crisis hotlines that you can get in contact with um, that can be of assistance. These are the individuals who are specifically trained to deal with this situation. They deal with it on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis. So, um, in my scope of practice, I deal with that, but I'm not specialized in that. So I try to stay away from that. But if
Right.
I'm present in that situation, then I would do what I can to,
Mm-hmm.
never to invalidate their thoughts or never tell them that they're being selfish, but to listen to them and encourage them and get somebody to assist me in that situation because I know that's not my strong suit. So I encourage anybody who's in a situation like that is to definitely find someone to assist you in that situation. Like I said, there are
Mm-hmm.
crisis hotlines. There are several 1-800 numbers. There are local numbers you can get in contact with. So there's different tools out there that you can use. I don't know any right off the back of my head, and I do have some paperwork somewhere around here, but definitely if you have to Google, just get on, find the hotline, call them, let them know what's going on, and be that support for them while they're there, because that's
Right.
really a tough situation.
It
Definitely a tough.
is. You always have to be supportive.
Hmm.
Supportive. Yes, sir. Now, what about anxiety? We're just going to travel through a whole bunch of different things. What about anxiety? I know some people they're more anxious than others.
Hmm.
Like some people have really bad anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for helping someone who's having an anxiety attack?
Um, when you have anxiety, it's good to have to be proactive,
Mm-hmm.
and but sometimes everyone is not fortunate enough to have a plan in place for when they're experiencing anxiety. Some people experience anxiety and don't know that's what's happening. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, we experience anxiety like social anxiety, like public speaking and things like that, and we become flustered. Our physiology starts to change. Our heart rate increases and different things like that. And there's really nothing in place, so they, succumb to that anxiety. But afterwards, once you experience something like that, it's always good practice to become proactive. And a good method to use is grounding techniques. And I'm still, and that's a part of my own self care is doing grounding techniques. Whether I have a big exam coming up or I have something important going on, and even ironically, I still practice grounding techniques before each group I do or while I'm doing a group, and that can consist of me just pacing back and forth or having a cadence in my walk or having a cadence in um, tapping because you can tap, you can count down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, and you name 5 things that you see in your environment. Um, 4 things that you hear, and just different things like that. Using your senses, whatever it is that you can utilize to calm yourself down, you'll do. Some people
Mm-hmm.
rock back and forth. Some people listen to music. There's something called, and I don't want to say it incorrectly, it's NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and this is a technique called anchoring. And what it does, it something that you create yourself to remind yourself to do something or to ground yourself. It's called anchoring, and it's NLP. And if you do I advise everybody who's watching to do some research on NLP if you're experiencing anxiety, and it's definitely a great tool to use.
Mm-hmm.
There's also another modality called EFT tapping. I'm not so much experienced in that, but the research has shown it's very beneficial. Um, if I'm not mistaken, you set intentions and you say mantras and you tap different parts of your body, different, um, not meridians. I can't remember what it's called, but I need to look more into it. But that's definitely a calming exercise that you can do. Um, those are pretty much the as far as grounding, the pacing, and the anchoring, the biggest ones that I use. Um, let me see what else. Breathing, deep breathing. How did I get that one?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Deep breathing. Some people use that in meditation. That's definitely a calming experience. Taking deep breaths. Um, there's this.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, just as I mentioned, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. It's a technique similar to that, where you close your eyes and imagine a place where you want to be, or your favorite place, and you imagine what you see, imagine what you smell. Um, are you eating something? If you're eating something, what are you eating? What does it taste like? And what do you feel? So if you're at the beach, are you feeling the sand? Are you feeling the water? Like, are you feeling the towel that you're laying on? So using all your senses to kind of take you to a place to help you relax. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that you can do. You just have to figure out what works best for you.
Yes. I'm learning so much right now. Thank you. I appreciate this
Hmm.
conversation. Now, what about for those who have bipolar disorder?
That's one of those things where if you have bipolar disorder, which means you're experiencing some form of depression. So what would make it worse is if you use if you're abusing substances. If you have bipolar disorder, definitely I would encourage all of you not to use substances, no alcohol, no other type of drugs. If you're on medication, just stick to those medications because using substances along with that bipolar disorder can intensify the symptoms, and we don't want that. You don't want that. So definitely just following the same tips I gave earlier about um, self care, grounding, um, different things to handle anxiety and depression. But definitely, treatment is definitely beneficial. Um, we also have to learn how to be emotionally intelligent.
Mm,
Um, and being emotionally intelligent means understanding your emotions. One thing that I always suggest my clients do is to get a journal and write down their thoughts and feelings throughout the day, or reflect later on in the day or later on in the week. And I'll do it myself. I'll write down what happened that made me feel a certain type of way. I'll write down the event that happened, what it made me feel, and then look into why I may have felt that way. So um, let's say someone cut me off in traffic. I might write down cut me off in traffic, and then the feelings. All right, anger, frustration, annoyed, upset, and whatever else that identify that feeling I'm feeling, and then just go into why I felt that way. And once you go into that and break that down and continue to ask that question why, you kind of get to the bottom of it. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to be emotionally intelligent, be more emotionally intelligent, recognize things, and be able to be aware of your own thoughts and your own feelings without necessarily reacting and then not looking back at it later.
mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, what about depression? I know you said that bipolar disorder and a couple other things can stem from depression. But what about
Mm-hmm.
depression just by itself?
There's different forms of depression. It could just be seasonal depression. You may experience, bipolar disorder. You may experience antisocial, borderline personality disorder. So all these things are kind of depression that could. The difference between them is the way when you have those symptoms and how they present itself. For example, men are more likely to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder because of their aggression.
Mm-hmm.
But depression itself is something that will cause you to not feel like doing anything. It could make you feel down and out and question everything. And it goes back to self care. But when you believe you have depression, it is in your best interest to seek help. A lot of people won't for whatever reason. It could be maybe there's a stigma that they seek treatment, that they're crazy. Well, that's not true at all. And these are some things that kind of keep people from seeking treatment. And just imagine if you continue to live your life and something about it just wasn't right, and you continue to live that way without seeking help. And that's what kind of why some people end up turning to suicide. They don't know what to do. Um, so whenever you are feel like though you're depressed, definitely consult someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a professional, but if it gets to that point, definitely seek a professional. But again, practice, self care. Some of us have to, like myself, I have to do a routine. Um, I have to consistently do things that I enjoy, even if taking a nap. I have to incorporate that into my routine because we can become drained and exhausted just dealing with life itself. So definitely making time for yourself. So if you're a busy person, maybe you go to bed hour earlier, maybe 30 minutes early, but definitely taking that time to tend to yourself. And another thing is challenging those negative thoughts. So a lot of time with depression,
Mm-hmm.
depression comes with negative thoughts. And what I've noticed is that people will go on a defense when someone says something about them, or says something they don't like, or in support of something that they love, but they don't take the same energy towards challenging their own negative thoughts. Um,
Right.
and that's an unfortunate thing, and that's something that I think a lot of people experience. 'Cause I can say I too experienced that, where I don't go to bat, or I don't fight for my own negative thoughts, fight for my positive thoughts, as I would fight for if someone to, try to hurt a family member or something like that. Like I go
Yeah.
hard for them, but I wouldn't go hard for, or I hadn't been going hard for
Mm-hmm.
challenging those negative thoughts. And a lot of times with depression, we may experience, this imposter syndrome. We may feel like we may feel guilty and then say things like, I don't know if this is meant for me. I don't know if I can do this. And a lot of times we experience these thoughts because we have high expectations for ourselves, or we just expect to be in a different place, and we have to understand that we have to move at our own pace.
We do.
But with experiencing things like that, we have to talk to ourselves. We have to talk to ourselves in positive ways, unless and if we don't, things won't look too good for us at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now we've been receiving a lot of comments,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been reading them as they come up and not in my head too. But um, did you schedule your own interview? Did you go on the Google Calendar and input your information in there yourself?
Um, yeah, it was some missing information in there, I believe.
No, that's perfectly fine. I just want to schedule another one because mental health, again, as I said earlier, in the Black and Brown communities,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be talked about. It is so
Yep.
very important that we take care of ourselves and that we know how to take care of ourselves, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us don't. A lot of us has just been like, you're fine, you're all right. And we gotta pay attention to these little things. So I
Mm-hmm.
do want to schedule another interview.
Okay.
Um, if you need the link, I can go ahead. I apologize. Somebody called me. I
Say that again, it broke up.
can go ahead and send you that link. I can go ahead and send you that link again so you can put your information in. So we can go ahead and schedule another interview because this one has been very informative. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to make sure that I apply it to my life if I'm ever in a situation where I would need to be. And I pray the viewers will as well.
Yes, I'll definitely do that as soon as you send me that.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so very much. Do you want to say your social medias one more time so that we could follow you on there, or do you have any websites? Actually, you're an author, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell us about your book first? No.
I have a book called 101 Tips, 101 Self-Care Tips, and right now it's only PDF form, so you can purchase it by ebook, and you can send me a DM, and we can talk about getting that to you if you're interested. Let's give you more information. I am also working on a few other books. The two other books I'm working on are more fictional books. One is dealing with um, it's a I'm still developing, and that one I haven't figured out a name for yet. But that one is looking at a black man in a black man's perspective, just his experience as a black man and dealing with certain traumas. And that story is kind of going through those traumas as he is seeking counseling. And that book is more esoteric, so there's more meditative things in there. There's more certain experience like remote viewing or what's the word I'm looking for? Astral projection and things like that. And the other book I have I'm writing is an adaptation from the short stories I've written in the past that I've posted on Tumblr. Um, and that's a story that I've combined several stories previous. I'm combining several short stories that I wrote previously and trying to turn it into another story, basically. And you can find those at TLVI, um, tumblr.telvi.com. If you have a Tumblr, you can find me. My handle is Telvi1, just like on here.
Okay. Thank you. And um, is your 101 self-care tips book on Amazon?
Say that again.
Is your published book on Amazon?
No, it's not on Amazon. And as you mentioned, now that you mention it, I'm actually working on some journals to post on to sell them on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a few things I got in the works, but with my schedule, I kind of haven't been able to get anything done. But if you want like to purchase the ebook on 101 self help tips, you can DM me on Instagram or Tumblr.
Okay. I'll be reaching out. I'd like to take a look at that book. Yes, sir. But thank you so much today for just giving us some of your time. I know you're probably exhausted. You need to take care of yourself, get some
I
rest,
was
love
actually taking a
yourself.
nap before the interview.
Yes, sir. Well, again, thank you so very much on behalf of NNV for just coming on today and having this discussion because it's very well needed and it's very important to have. And we look forward to having you on the show again.
Thank you, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And thank you all for tuning into NNV News. Check us out on Instagram here, NNV News, and our website, nnvnews.com. Peace and have a wonderful day.